My name is my Hmong name is Mo, and but not a lot of people use that name. So my name is Mo Misty Her, and I was not born here in the United States. We came here to this country when I was 5 years old, and I was born in Laos. I spent about a year in the refugee camp, and then we came here to the United States, and I started school in Garden Grove, California. From the time I was a little girl, I always knew that I was treated differently. And I felt that because in my family, I was the first, I'm the firstborn. And then after me is my brother. And then after my brother is my sister. And then, three other brothers. I saw from a very early age that women in the Hmong culture were treated very differently. I remember one time, and we were here in the United States already, and my mom was signing her name, and she didn't know how to sign her name. So she signed her name with an X. And I said to her, Mom, why do you sign your name with an X, right? And she said, it's because I don't know how to read or like I don't know how to write. So all I know is how to make the X. And I had a conversation and I said, well, and she said, because I was never given the opportunity, like I can't. And I couldn't understand that in my young mind. Like I couldn't understand why my mom didn't go to school. And so the way she explained it to me, she said that like all her life, all she ever wanted was to go to school. But my grandparents in those days said, no one is going to marry you if you are an educated Hmong woman. And so she says like she would go every day, she would walk with her brothers, and then the dirt road would divide, and she would take the road to the farm to to farm and to watch the cattle, because she was in charge of Mushai. And then her brothers would go the other road and to the school. And she described it for me as like she would sit there and I remember my mom would tell me, oh, it's okay. Or she would tell me, oh, you don't need to, and that from an early, like very, very early on, I started to look at my mom because, in our culture, in the Hmong culture, we look at our mothers as like the ones who are uneducated, and it's like most of the time when people come to our house, they don't come to see my mother, they come to see my father because there's something that they need to more high or to, to more advice or something like that. And, but people don't come to my mom when they come to our house. It's my father who they are sitting with, and then it's my mother who is cooking. But I started to look at my mom and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing woman who is so resilient and so smart, and that could never get out, all because I remember this incident and I tell this story. Some people have heard me say it. My mom would take me to go clean houses with her. And this one time I was in the kitchen and I was shining it. I heard her over talking to her husband. They were in the living room, and I heard her say to her husband, oh, how sad is it that my mom's name is Nane's daughter is coming with her and cleaning her house. And it's so sad because, gosh, someday we're going to have to employ her as our housekeeper too. And I remember being so angry, and my mom just was working so hard. And I was looking at my mom and I was like, how is it that this woman does this day in and day out? And here's these people looking down on her. And then I looked at her and I got so angry. And I said to her, I'm not your housekeeper. And she just, kind of looked shocked, right? And then later my mom was like, don't do that again. And I said, I'm not their housekeeper and I'm not going to be a housekeeper, right? And that's when my mom said something to me that was so important. It lives with me. And it will live with me for the rest of my life. And she said to me, I bring you here so that có thể là còn được cũng na, có thể là bỏ hai cái này chọn nhìn bỏ ra là, and cụ chỉ sa có rong li cụ à. I don't want you to be like me because you are now in a place where you have opportunities and I can remove those barriers for you. And you can, and then she said these things to me and she said, you get to choose who you get to be. You get to choose who you want to be. It's not going to be defined for you. Like me, it was already defined for me what my path is going to be. But you get to choose who you want to be. And that phrase has stuck with me. And from that day on, I started going, she's right. I do get to choose who I get to become. And so, it's moments like that. It's like in the Hmong culture, when we marry, we lose almost our identity. Like, I did not know that my mom's name was Neng. Mai Neng. Because I had never, ever heard anybody call her by her name until I was I believe, in middle school. And because I always knew my mom as Nian Gieju. And because you take on the name of your husband, and my grandparents, everybody called her, Nia, which was my nickname, or they would say, Nyang Gieju, right, or Nian Gieju, right. And so I didn't even know my mom had a name, and so I remember, I think I was in middle school, I can't remember, and someone asked me, "What's your mom's name?" And I said, "Oh, my mom's name is Nian Gieju." And they said, "Oh, no, really, what's your mom's name?" And I said, "Yeah, Nian Gieju, right?" And so when I got home, I said, "Mom, and then your name is Nian Gieju, which translates to the wife of Chu, Gieju, right?" And I said, and so like, why did they tell me that? And she said, she got very emotional. And she looked at me and she said, means hi, my name. And that was the first time I heard my mom's name, and that I knew that her name was Mai Neng and not Nian Gieju. And then I said, "Mom, we're going to teach you how to write your name. We're going to teach you how to because your name is not an X, and your name is not Nian Gieju. Mai Neng Thao." And so those are things that when you ask, like, what are the things that define who I am and what has led me here? It's those kinds of moments. I'm very lucky that I'm married to a man who is so supportive and who sees me for everything that I am. And so when I married my husband, he said, "Don't change your last name." And so, there was a point when I had my children and they said, "Mommy, how come your last name is Her and our last name is Yang? And Daddy's last name is Yang. And how come you didn't change your last name?" So I went to my husband and I said, "Hey, do you want me to change my last name? Because the kids are questioning it." And he goes, "No," because he said, "I never want you to ever lose who you are and your identity, because your last name, your name, Ma Misty Her, is who you are, and Her is your last name." This happened, and I don't even think this individual realized that he did this for me. As Pao Yang here at the Fresno Center. We were at the Hmong New Year one year, and all the men were standing in the front, and he back at me and he said, "Misty, come here." And I was like, no, I'm okay. And he goes, "No, stand up here with us with all the men. You've earned your place. You deserve it. And you're going to stand here with me." And I don't think he realized what that meant to me. Because for the first time, a Hmong man saw my worth. besides my husband and my brothers, and pulled me to the front and said, you are going to stand here. And because you have rightfully earned this. And I think we need more people in our community to do that, because it's hard enough that you're being judged from every which way, but it's even harder when the judgment comes from your own community. I'll give you another example. My father and I have a wonderful, great relationship, but he always says to me, "Min chai ku tu xiang to khote ka chi yi tu." E wa ja ko yi tu chai. E ya ko yi tu ma che ku lu ning tu za ku lu ning tu shong ku lu ning tu bao dao na. E ja tu xiang loi ko yu loi ko chi yi tu e ko yi tu chai. In essence, he's saying, I regret and I love you and I'm so proud of you as a daughter, but I have so much regret that you're not a son. And I was so sad. Ku tu xia na, cho ho de ku sa de gosh, wo ya ku lu ning e ku wo ra chi mo ja lo ja chi shong mo I tu li na. We don't talk about it, and it's right now it's not okay for Hmong men to talk about it, and we need to make it okay. You know, I think that it did and it didn't, in that I had an advantage because I was the oldest in the family and my brothers were younger, and so there was always this natural, like, we're going to look to our sister, because I had to break a lot of barriers. Like, I'm going to go to college. And as soon as I went to college, my brothers were like, we're going to college too. But it affected it in this other way too, where my brothers, there were some underlying privileges that they know they have that I don't have as a sister. And so, you know, those gender roles are very interesting in our culture, right? Like, I will get called to be at the table with a group of men to talk about issues that are happening in our community. But after I'm done, it will be like, okay, so now go back and sit with the women, because now the men have to talk. Like, that kind of stuff still happens in our culture. And I know that there are a lot of Hmong men trying to break that for us, but that still happens. Like, I'm so proud that Dr. Vicky Hyung Lau is Itubatan Hmong for Jingmong Lau, right? I'm so proud of her for that. And when she became that, I was just so happy but I also see that when all the Batans are together, and I also see that they treat her differently. And I'm like, that's not fair, you know? And so I think it's a bubble that we haven't burst. And if we can burst that in our community, I think we will take our Hmong men and women and Hmong boys and girls to the next level. And I think that we're going to have a lot more people be vocal with that. And Hmong men have to be not afraid to speak up. Like, I encourage my husband. It's only been like the last 5 or so years that he has gotten very comfortable talking about, you know, his role, because that before that, there was a lot of pushback on him, and sometimes even people looking down on him, which sometimes I think that, you know, hasn't always been. It's not always fair to our Hmong boys and our Hmong men. I also think that as Hmong women, when we have reached a certain career or moved up in the ladder to a certain way, I think how we show up is very important. And how we show up in leadership is very important, no matter, you know, what we do. But how we show up for our Hmong men as Hmong women in leadership, I think that's very critical.